Ladies and gentlemen, we're back here on this Saturday, the 30th of March, 2024, to introduce something to you. Those of you who have car loans, doesn't matter if you're part of SATCOM or any of the programs associated with SATCOM or any of its affiliate organizations, you're going to be getting a copy of this. This is for those individuals who have car loans. Let me explain something to you. This applies if you have a student loan or a home loan. This applies if you've taken out a credit card. Pay attention, because it's very important. As long as you signed a promissory note, anything whereby you are stating you promise to pay, that's called a promissory note. Doesn't matter if it doesn't have all the elements. All it has to do is claim that you are promising to pay, and it has your signature on it. That is a promissory note. Just understand it. Don't go by, don't use stupid CC. The UCC is not law. It has never been law. So stop yelling out, you stupid CC. But it's commercial. Nobody gives up about no stupid commercial law. Commercial law is not law, people. The law is the law. Sorry, I apologize. There's so many people out there who don't understand law. They don't understand how laws are created. Laws are not created by Congress, ladies and gentlemen, in the United States. Laws are created by the people in the United States. Go back, read the preamble. Look at the Bill of Rights. You see, Congress couldn't take that right away from you to come together as a group and enact law. That's an abridgment that they don't have the authority to do. That's why the Constitution says Congress shall make no law apprising you of that right. Y'all really do need to understand the Constitution. Stop listening to a judge interpret it for you. Go by what they originally meant. Now, not here to have that conversation. Sorry, I've been having conversations like that with people, and people keep arguing with me, and I don't understand how they can argue a fact. Everything I just said was a fact. Go ahead. If you know more than I do, by all means, do your own channel and start doing more than I do. But if you don't, then shut up. Literally. I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. Now let's get to the facts. Ladies and gentlemen, this document right here. This document is going to be for automobiles in a small claims court. You're going to put your name, operating in your natural capacity, on behalf of the estate identified by the same name. Or you can just put that name right there, and you don't have to put identified by the same name. That's up to you. You feel me? I feels you, homie. Now, whew, ladies and gentlemen, I got something I needs to do. Sorry, I need to correct this right here. We got to have that comma, even though it's supposed to have the little period. We got to have the comma. The comma is important. Now, what I do need you guys to understand, let's do something else. We have to do something else. Wake up. Until properly identified, comma, will be known as, comma, do numero uno. Stop listening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first time it's done numero uno as one. Normally, whoo-wee, it will do it, and just let me just tell you, if y'all don't understand, it would just do numero, the actual spelling of the word, and then uno, as if we're playing the game. It's stupid. It's stupid, okay? Because it can't help it. So until we can identify it, it's just gonna be a doughboy. That's right, just one of them doughboys. All right, y'all remember the doughboys? Well, anyway, yeah, they used to play a lot. Oh, you're so stupid. What? Play-Doh. Oh, God, that's stupid. All right, ladies and gentlemen, hold on one second. All uppercase. And we're going to make this, sorry, we got to paint the White House this color. We're going to make it black. Okay? You guys are just going to be a lighter shade of gray. All right. Now, you're going after the insurance company, for the bond company, for the dealership. We're not going after the finance company just yet. The finance company comes next. Y'all just hold on now. We ain't there yet. Okay. we're going after everybody, but we're going to pick and choose our battles. First, we're going to go after the dealership. Why? Because the dealership got paid. That's right. Y'all didn't know? The dealership got all of its money for the vehicle. The bank sat up there and stepped in and said, oh, no, 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 no. We're going to get the money from the Federal Reserve. Man, we're just going to be a middleman. The Federal Reserve going to pay us, and then we're going to pay y'all, and then they're going to keep paying us and paying us. And when we repossess the car, man, we're going to keep getting paid off of that same vehicle. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's a game. Okay, and as Concepcion, y'all don't remember MC Concepcion? All in the same game? Anyway, we're all in the same game. That's what they're saying to y'all. This is a game, people. So this is a constitutionally guaranteed complaint in the exercise of the right to petition the government for redress of grievances. I allege it's supposed to be a test. I'm just doing it now, so I haven't finished it. Affirm, declare, assert the following to be true. It's supposed to be true, not to the truth. Uh-oh, got to put a B there, not an E. Based on firsthand knowledge, fact, and or experience via this qualified affidavit, evidenced by the following statement of claims. Now remember, you have to state a claim, or the court has no basis for hearing your complaint. So you has to state a claim. Okay, has to, like Shasta, has to state a claim. All right, got to go back up here because it don't like me. It's because of how I pasted it in. I did paste it in, and because I pasted it in, it's because of the bracket that it's in. So you see how it set it up now? It did it right now. Whew, that's all I was trying to do. Now this is not done yet. I have to redo this, okay? But I want y'all to understand, it's going to be a part of the same document. The only thing, oh, you guys don't remember this document? This is the same document that puts the court on judicial notice, redress, correction of wrongs, retaliation, jurisdiction, talks about the Federal Reserve Act and all of that. See that right there? Same document. We're just creating a new beginning. Oh, a new beginning. Anyway, so we're creating a new beginning. It's going to keep the same information. We're going to do our interrogatories specifically for this argument. Would you like to know what the argument is, ladies and gentlemen? Because the banks get to do fractional reserve banking, what is fractional reserve banking? I thought you'd never ask. Hold on one second. I'm going to have it explained to you. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, at this point, what you can do is you can skip forward 10 minutes. How long is this one? Give me a second. Let's make it bigger. Let's make it bigger, homie. And when we make it bigger, we don't get to see the time. Okay? So we can't see the time, but skip ahead 12 minutes. And 46 seconds. That's going to be the end of the video. You know what I'm saying? You can either go watch this and learn something new, or you can just turn off the video. Okay? But we're going to learn a little bit about modern money mechanics. So y'all pay attention. I heard a little bit about what the young man was saying, and I'm going to choose this one. I was looking for the other one that we saw in 2012 that was animated. Man, that one was all right. It explained it so perfectly, but I couldn't find that real quick. So hold on, y'all. I'm going to play this. Y'all just pay attention. It says modern money mechanics, Roman numeral 1. None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. We are free. We are free. We are free.
A number of years ago, the Central Bank of the United States, the Federal Reserve, produced a document entitled Modern Money Mechanics. This publication detailed the institutionalized practice of money creation as utilized by the Federal Reserve and the web of global commercial banks it supports. On the opening page, the document states its objective. The purpose of this booklet is to describe the basic process of money creation in a fractional reserve banking system. It then proceeds to describe this fractional reserve process through various banking terminology, a translation of which goes something like this. The United States government decides it needs some money, so it calls up the Federal Reserve and requests, say, $10 billion. The Fed replies saying, sure, we'll buy $10 billion in government bonds from you. So the government takes some pieces of paper, paints some official-looking designs on them, and calls them treasury bonds.
It's so
Then
pretty.
it puts a value on these bonds to the sum of $10 billion and sends them over to the Fed. In turn, the people at the Fed draw up a bunch of impressive pieces of paper themselves, only this time calling them Federal Reserve notes.
Not so
Also
pretty.
designating a value of $10 billion to the Fed.
Uh-oh.
The Fed then takes these notes and trades them for the bonds. Once this
Oh,
exchange is
James
complete,
Bond.
the government then takes the $10 billion in Federal Reserve notes and deposits it into a bank account. And
Really?
upon this deposit, paper notes officially become legal tender money, adding
Cha-ching!
$10 billion to the U.S. money supply.
Cha-ching.
And there it is.
Bling,
$10 billion
bling.
in new money has been
Bling,
created.
bling, bling. Bling, 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 bling,
Of
bling,
course,
bling.
this example is a generalization, for, in reality, this transaction would occur electronically, with no paper used at all.
No
In
paper?
fact, only 3% of the U.S. money supply exists in physical currency.
Everything's
The other
credits.
97% essentially exists in computers alone.
Credits.
Now,
Credits.
government bonds are, by design, instruments of debt. And when the Fed purchases these bonds, with money it essentially created out of thin air, the government is actually promising to pay back that money to the Fed. In other words, the money was created out of debt. This mind-numbing paradox of how money or value can be created out of debt or a liability will become more clear as we further this exercise.
Ooh.
So, the exchange has been made, and now $10 billion sits in a commercial bank account. Here's where it gets really interesting. For as based on the fractional reserve practice, that $10 billion deposit instantly becomes part of the bank's reserves, just as all deposits do. And regarding reserve requirements, as stated in modern money mechanics, a bank must maintain legally required reserves equal to a prescribed percentage of its deposits. It then quantifies this by stating, under current regulations, the reserve requirement against most transaction accounts is 10%. This means that with a $10 billion deposit, 10% or $1 billion is held as the required reserve, while the other $9 billion is considered an excessive reserve and can be used as the basis for new loans. Now, it is logical to assume that this $9 billion is literally coming out of the existing $10 billion deposit.
Oh,
However,
isn't it?
this is actually not the case. What really happens is that the $9 billion is simply created out of thin air on top of the existing $10 billion deposit.
19
This is how
billion?
the money supply is expanded.
Oh, it all adds
As
up.
stated in modern money mechanics, of course they, the banks, do not really pay out loans from the money they receive as deposits. If they did this, no additional money would be created. What they do when they make loans is to accept promissory notes, loan contracts, in exchange for credits, money, from borrowers' transaction accounts. In other words,
Hold on. Ain't gonna do no in other words. I told y'all. It's all about credits. It's been about credits. I ain't never read modern money mechanics. Wait, shut my mouth. No. I'm gonna keep my mouth open. I ain't never read modern money mechanics. I don't like that type of reading. I don't feel that's boring to me. So I ain't never read no modern money mechanics. I just understand the stupid that they're doing. Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, that's all they're extending to you is credit. It's a temporary credit. And so that's why the Federal Reserve Board of Governors issues Federal Reserve notes. They don't issue Federal Reserve notes in the physical form. They issue it in the electronic form to the banks. That's what this is all about. So pay attention.
the $9 billion can be created out of nothing simply because there is a demand for such a loan and that there is a $10 billion deposit to satisfy the reserve requirements. Now, let's assume that somebody walks into this bank and borrows the newly available $9 billion. They will then most likely take that money and deposit it into their own bank account. The process then repeats, for that deposit becomes part of the bank's reserves. 10% is isolated, and in turn 90% of the $9 billion, or $8.1 billion, is now available as newly created money for more loans. And of course, that 8.1 can be loaned out and redeposited, creating an additional 7.2 billion to 6.5 billion to 5.9 billion, etc. This deposit money creation loan cycle can technically go on to infinity. The average
Let me show you how it can go until an infinity, ladies and gentlemen. Let's say I'm a bank. The president said you're a bank. Anyway, let's say I'm a bank and I deposit money within my own institution. You're a sole proprietor. I deposited money in my own institution. And let's say I keep 10% and I overinflate because that's what the other 9 billion was for. That's called inflation. They overinflate the value. So let's say I overinflate. I fractional reserve it. And now let's say I had $10. I loan myself $10. And now I can take and hold on to $1, 10% as a bank. And now I can loan out the other, pay attention, $9. And then somebody else gets it. What if I loaned the $9 to myself and then deposited back with myself and then took the $8 to deposit it back with myself, kept the 10%, deposited the $7 and kept doing that. So now I just changed that $10 into well over $120. Isn't that a shame? Can you really do that? Why not? It's called fractional reserve banking. As long as you can prove you got 10% reserves. Oh no. Do you know what you're about to get started? I'm not. Once you get started, you never get down. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not trying to get nothing started. I'm just explaining modern money mechanics. It's what banks get to do. It can go on indefinitely because I can keep loaning the money back to myself, which is what the banks do. If you don't think the banks loan money back to themselves, then how could they buy a property that they claim they were the holder in due course? How can they buy that back? How can they sell a property to themselves? Pay attention. They're telling you how they do business. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. One moment.
Mathematical result is that about $90 billion can be created on top of the original $10 billion. In other words, for every deposit that ever occurs in the banking system, about 9 times that amount can be created out of thin air.
Hold on, let me show y'all something. Remember I said 120? We both, he and I both right. Okay, he and I both right. In the case of deposits of notes, drafts, bills of exchange, bankers' acceptances, Federal Reserve banks may issue Federal Reserve bank notes in an amount of 90% of the value of such. Well, when you go and you read Title 7 of the Code of Federal Regulations, you'll see that the banks get to add an additional 15% to the original 100%. They can get 115% back. Pay attention. 115%. They've been telling you guys about fractional reserve banking all this time. That's why you pay attention. You got to pay attention. This is very important. When you get a loan, you pay 10% down, making it a full 100%. That means the 10% down you paid them in cash. That's the only reserve they need to hold on to. The note was the total value. The note was the total value. All right, gotta go. Back to the program. Back to the program.
Money jitters. Ask the obliging Bank of America for a jar of soothing instant money, M-O-N-E-Y, in the form of a convenient personal loan.
So, now that we understand how money is created by this fractional reserve banking system, a logical yet elusive question might come to mind. What is actually giving this newly created money value? The answer? The money that already exists. The new money essentially steals value from the existing money supply. For the total pool of money is being increased irrespective to demand for goods and services. And as supply and demand finds equilibrium, prices rise, diminishing the purchasing power of each individual dollar.
Uh-oh.
This is generally referred to as inflation, and inflation is essentially a hidden tax on the public.
What is the advice that you generally get? And that is inflate the currency. They don't say debate.
Hold on. Ben Bernanke. Y'all remember Ben? I would never remember his name until I see this idiot's face. Okay? Hold on. Before we talk about what they're getting ready to talk about, and I believe that's Ron Paul asking him a question. But hold on, only because I'm just now putting the voice together. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say this before we go on, so that y'all completely understand what's going on. Give me 1 second. We're gonna come back to that so that y'all can understand. No, I went back. I didn't go back far enough. Hold on. Inflation. Air. 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 Y'all didn't understand it? They created out of thin air. Inflation is created out of thin air. Don't take my word for it.
Hidden
Just think
tax
about it.
on the public.
What is the advice that you generally get? And that is inflate the currency. They don't say debase the currency. They don't say devalue the currency. They don't say cheat the people.
Told you. I knew it was Ron Paul. I just knew it. I used to watch these committees, but I've listened to Ron Paul. It's just, here's the thing. He wasn't who he said he was. When he was talking about, what do you call it, audit the Fed and audit the Treasury and all of that, when he was talking all that, he was not serious, people. Lord have mercy. I just wish we wouldn't have all fell for it. I am glad there were people like Dick Gregory. Here I was, man, I actually like John McCain. I didn't like John McCain at first, but when they started propping up his image, I started liking John McCain. Now I better understand who John McCain was. After Dick Gregory explained and talked about the records that he was able to obtain about John McCain and his being a prisoner of war, and the order to have him court-martialed and sentenced to death because of what he did while he was a prisoner of war. Yeah, that John McCain. Then he made it to Congress because they kept that hidden from the public. Go ahead and do your research. Don't come back and tell me. Just do your research and then move on. Hold on now.
Who are saved, they say lower the interest rates. The real deception is when we distort the value of money. When we create money out of thin air, we have no savings, and yet there's so-called capital. So my question boils down to this: how in the world can we expect to solve the problems of inflation, that is, the increase in the supply of money, with more inflation?
Of course, it can't. The fractional reserve system of monetary expansion is inherently inflationary. For the act.
Okay, before we go on, because I've been wanting to say this for years, we have people who rob banks and they go to jail for money laundering and all this. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't launder money. It has no value. So how can you launder something that doesn't have any value? Now, hold on. They get you by saying there was a material gain. No, there wasn't. There can never be a material gain. When you get down to it, you understand that everything is used. Everything is recycled junk. Everything on this planet is recycled junk. There is not one thing on this planet that is not recycled junk, that is not made from recyclable material. Junk, stuff that nobody else considered to be of value. Remember, they had to mine it. They had to go seeking for it. It had no value before they dug it up. Don't tell nobody. Everything is junk. When you have the right arguments, they can't come at you with that bull crap. But anyway.
Act of expanding the money supply without there being a proportional expansion of goods and services in the economy will always debase a currency. In fact, a quick glance at the historical values of the US dollar versus the money supply reflects this point definitively, for the inverse relationship is obvious.
Isn't that called a recession?
$1 in 1913 required $21.60 in 2007 to match value.
Uh-oh.
That is a 96% devaluation since the Federal Reserve came into existence. Now, if this reality of inherent and perpetual inflation seems absurd and economically self-defeating, hold that thought, for absurdity is an understatement in regard to how our financial system really operates. For in our financial system, money is debt. And debt is money. Here's a chart of the U.S. money supply from 1950 to 2000.
Hold on now. Are you meaning to tell me the more debt I'm in, the richer I am? No, that can't be. You mean to tell me the poorest people in America are the richest people in America and they don't even know? Ladies and gentlemen, the only thing you have to do is learn how to convert that debt into money, because money is debt and debt is money. I'm not joking right now. I'm telling you the honest truth. Debt is money. Look at your Federal Reserve note. As a matter of fact, pause the video and go look at any Federal Reserve note. Any dollar bill, any $100 bill, $20 bill, $5 bill. Go look at it. And notice in big, bold black letters, this note is legal tender, good for the payment of all debts. It's only good for paying debts. Look, it tells you I'm only good for paying debts. I'm not like the Bill who went up to Capitol Hill. Okay, I'm not like that type of Bill. No, I am just a debt bill. You just come and talk to me, and I'll talk to you about all type of depression. That's what I am. I'm a depression bill. I just talk about debt, and that's all I talk about because I'm just a bill, but not like the bill that got as far as Capitol Hill. You know what I'm saying? All right, gotta go.
2006. Here is a chart of the U.S. national debt for the same period. How interesting it is that the trends are virtually the same. For the more money there is, the more debt there is. The more debt there is, the more money there is. To put it a different way, every single dollar in your wallet is owed to somebody by somebody. For remember, the only way the money can come into existence is from loans. Therefore, if everyone in the country were able to pay off all debts, including the government, there would not be $1 in surplus.
Tax credits is how you pay off a debt, by writing off your expenses. I've tried to tell y'all, but nobody wants to pay attention. Everybody just keep thinking it's a joke. Everybody keep thinking it's another one of them gimmicks. Ladies and gentlemen, forgive your neighbor their debts. Forgive these institutions their debts. Now, before somebody could come up with the idea and understanding that writing off debts will help balance the budget, they locked me up when I did it the first time. I'm sorry. They locked me up when I did it the first time, but I was only doing it for myself by sending them those money orders. 680 trillion, 420 trillion, five of them things. That's right. That's what Puerto Rico was all about. I know you thought it was for something different. That's okay. That's what they do. They shift the subject and make you guys think everything but the right thing. I knew what it was for because I told everybody. Did a video, told everybody, when I do this, they're going to come after me. Why? Because I was giving them a quadrillion of dollars worth of instruments. What could they do with it? Well, you notice Bush, right after the budget was balanced and he came into office, started a war in Iraq. Patriot missile after Patriot missile after Patriot missile after Patriot missile. Those things were $2 billion apiece. And look at how they were just using Patriot missiles, bombing up empty fields so they could run up the deficit because they can't come out of bankruptcy. And that's why they did that, so that no more A for Vs were going to work to get them back out of bankruptcy. That's right. They did that because of the A for V process. But that's enough. Let's continue.
Circulation.
If there was no debt in our money system,
In fact,
there
the
wouldn't be
last
any
time in
money.
American history the national debt was completely paid off was in 1835 after President Andrew Jackson shut down the central bank that preceded the Federal Reserve.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's why what you don't want to do, you don't want to listen to videos all the time. They will, hold on one second. President Clinton leaves office with a balanced budget. Stop listening. Oh, that's right. It won't let me do it that way. Sorry, I'm using cuckoo. Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. I don't care about that. I said a balanced budget. What's wrong with y'all? No longer updated links external. Nobody cares. Bill Clinton, 40th something. Give me a second. Put y'all on pause. I'll be right back. Okay, no, I was also changing the search engine for this particular browser because it gives me a hard time when I'm trying to go to Google. Ladies and gentlemen, when President Clinton left office, ladies and gentlemen, for the entire time that idiot was in office, he ended each year with a surplus. Say what you want about him, better than Reaganomics. He doesn't get credit for it because he didn't do it. It had nothing to do with his being president. It had everything to do with during that time from 1993 to 2000, the A for V process was being utilized, but it was only being utilized by the selected few. Individuals was keeping that junk to themselves. You know how stupid people are. If they had told everybody about the A for V process, there would be nothing they could do about it, but it was too dangerous. You couldn't come out of, pay attention, you couldn't come out of bankruptcy as a nation at that time. It was not possible. But the A for V process would have balanced the budget. The only problem is the monies the United States owes to the Federal Reserve is not Federal Reserve notes. Federal Reserve notes is not money to the Federal Reserve. Pay attention now. Federal Reserve notes is not money to the Federal Reserve. They will only accept gold and the valuation of gold. The United States doesn't have enough of that. And so they can't pay their debt because that will put them completely in debt again and they'll be in bankruptcy again and their Federal Reserve notes won't work because they'll still have to pay back the gold for which they had to generate with gold. It's just the cycle they put themselves in. That's why they're stuck. Hold on now. We got to get back to our video. 1 second. Give me liberty. Oh, I'm sorry. 1 second.
In fact, Jackson's entire political platform essentially revolved around his commitment to shut down the central bank, stating at one point, "The bold efforts the present bank has made to control the government are but premonitions of the fate that awaits the American people, should they be deluded into a perpetuation of this institution or the establishment of another like it." Unfortunately, his message was short-lived, and the international bankers succeeded to install another central bank in 1913, the Federal Reserve. And as long as this institution exists, perpetual debt is guaranteed.
Hold on, it's not just the Federal Reserve, it's all the central banks throughout the world. It's the International Monetary Fund. It's the World Trade Organization. We're not getting out of that system, ladies and gentlemen. The whole world is trapped in it right now because the United States, through the World Trade Organization, has gotten everybody to drink the Kool-Aid. Okay? It's just that simple. Hold on.
Now, so far we have discussed the reality that money is created out of debt, through loans. These loans are based on a bank's reserves, and reserves are derived from deposits. And through this fractional reserve system, any one deposit can create 9 times its original value, in turn debasing the existing money supply, raising prices in society. And since all this money is created out of debt and circulated randomly through commerce, people become detached from their original debt, and a disequilibrium exists, where people are forced to compete for labor in order to pull enough money out of the money supply to cover their costs of living. As dysfunctional and backwards as all of this might seem, there is still one thing we have omitted from this equation.
Why you admit that?
And it is this element of the structure which reveals the truly fraudulent nature of the system itself.
Oh, he said admit.
The application of interest. When the government borrows money from the Fed, or when a person borrows money from a bank, it almost always has to be paid back with accrued interest. In other words, almost every single dollar that exists must be eventually returned to a bank with interest paid as well. But if all money is borrowed from the central bank and is expanded by commercial banks through loans, only what would be referred to as the principal is being created in the money supply. So then, where is the money to cover all of the interest that is charged?
Exactly.
Nowhere. It
That's
doesn't
right.
exist.
Sure
The
doesn't.
ramifications of this are staggering, for the amount of money owed back to the banks will always exceed the amount of money that is available in circulation. This is
Exactamundo.
why inflation is a constant in the economy, for new money is always needed to help cover the perpetual deficit built into the system, caused by the need to pay the interest. What this also means is that mathematically, defaults and bankruptcy are literally built into the system, and there will always be poor pockets of society that get the short end of the stick.
Not until EeoN came along, he's about to do something about this in the first place. So thank you for bringing us and segueing us into this.
An analogy would be a game of musical chairs, for once the music stops, somebody is left out to dry.
Oh, I don't need to sit down, homie. I'll remain standing. Everybody else can be sitting down, but I'm gonna take this standing up. Shoot, ain't gonna take this sitting down.
It invariably transfers true wealth from the individual to the banks. For if you are unable to pay for your mortgage, they will take your property. This is particularly enraging when you realize that not only is such a default inevitable due to the fractional reserve practice, but also because of the fact that the money that the bank loaned to you didn't even legally exist in the first place.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zegler. The addendum. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, let's bring this to a happy ending. The banks create fractional reserve banking. When they create fractional reserve banking, there is no law that allows the banks to create fractional reserve banking. It's a policy. Now remember what Congress said when they allowed them to create fractional reserve banking. Congress said, right here, that your promissory notes was the gold and the security for reserve notes. Federal Reserve notes, Federal Reserve Bank notes didn't matter. Okay, and it was the security backing the notes. So pay attention. Now I want y'all to follow me on this because some of y'all gonna have to do some mathematics and arithmetic. People say I say things and they realize what I'm saying, but they don't think that that's what I'm saying. Pay attention. If the Federal Reserve doesn't have a law allowing them to fractional reserve their Federal Reserve notes, then if your promissory notes, drafts, bills of exchange, bankers' acceptances, and trade acceptances are supposed to be, hold on now, we're going to do that right there. If your notes, oh, come on now, get on out of here. Give me 1 second, y'all. I got to minimize y'all because y'all getting on my nerves. No, we're gonna make it a little bit smaller. Come on now. It wants to go too small. Every time I do it, it'd be going too small. Anyway, pay attention. Those notes, those drafts, those bills of exchange, bankers' acceptances, and trade acceptances become the obligation of the Federal Reserve. Why? Because of fractional reserve banking. Don't tell nobody. And they shall be receivable at par in all parts of the United States for the same purposes as are national banknotes, same purposes as Federal Reserve notes. Well, if they get the fractional reserve, Federal Reserve notes, ladies and gentlemen, if they get the fractional reserve Federal Reserve notes, remember, according to presidential proclamation, hold on, let's show y'all something. I know they're gonna hate me for this, but that's okay. Y'all should know this. You got it. We gave y'all the thing right here. What's it called again? It's called the New Deal. Pay attention. During such holiday, the Secretary of the Treasury, with the approval of the President, shall, under such regulations as he may prescribe, is authorized and empowered to permit any and all of such banking institutions to perform any and all of the usual banking functions. This includes authorizing the direct creation in such banking institution of special trust accounts for the receipt of new deposits. They get the fractional reserve deposits, ladies and gentlemen. Shouldn't you be able to? You're a banking institution the same as they. As long as you keep 10% reserves. Got to follow the rules. Got to learn the rules first. Which shall be subject to withdrawal on demand without any restrictions and no limitations, and shall be, remember, there are no restrictions. If they get to do it, you get to do it. There are no restrictions. And shall be kept separately in cash, 10%, or on deposit with the Federal Reserve banks, or invested in obligations of the United States bonds. The term banking institution shall include all banks and or persons engaged in the banking business. Oh! If they can do it, you can do it. You just have to do the research, ladies and gentlemen. Will this destroy the system? No, the system's already destroyed. It's unattainable for them to correct the damage done. They don't have the ability of correcting the damage. Too much damage, people. Too much damage is done. They've allowed it to go on for too long. That's where we are. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. This is the system. Again, you gotta love it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. 41 minutes of pain. Have a good day.